We're Team Vital. So our mission is to provide a faster, more reliable method of communication for first responders working in dangerous, sometimes life-threatening situations. With both man-made and natural disasters threatening us every day, it's essential that our emergency personnel be better able to communicate with each other and with those in need. So, this is our team. I'm Caesar, I'm a biology major.
I'm Emma, I'm nursing.
Adam, engineering. Will, writing and rhetoric.
Jackie, public policy.
Okay, so we took our mentor's advice and we broke down the people that we interviewed into persona profiles, so then we could better compare and contrast the different kind of information that we got from each of our interviews. So with medical personnel, we only interviewed one person, and that was a nursing professor. She was involved in a political coup at one point in Africa, and she was saying that the first thing that happens during a coup is they take out cell towers and you don't have any access to communication. So luckily she had hand radios that they use in the U.S., or they had from the U.S., but that was just an interesting point that she brought up. And then she also mentioned that triaging is extremely important during times of a disaster. So whatever we end up coming up with you have to be able to have that sort of component in it. Then we talked with Christine, our mentor, for a long time. And we got some really good feedback from her. We basically narrowed down our problem to what we want to solve is we want state-level information sharing during a disaster. We need to dig deeper into the interviewee's experience and get them to explain step-by-step what they do when a disaster occurs, exactly everything that they do, because every task they have has an end goal, and we are trying to figure out that goal so we can get a better understanding of what we need to come up with. Commander Sawtell also mentioned that his priority as a first responder is essentially who is in need, what is their need, and do I have the supplies for that?
And from our tech experts, we learned that more people are generally going to go to social media during a disaster instead of looking at government websites. So people will go to like Facebook or Twitter to see what's happening. And then from like directors, we learned that communication is a huge problem in these scenarios because there's so many groups and so many people trying to come in at once, and they don't have like an effective way to all coordinate and communicate together. And other information we learned was like, do people even have phones? What if their phones got wet? Like, can we get information to them on phones? And we had some interviews who they were pretty confident that an app would be better than using a drone, but we're still messing around with potentially using a drone. And then also we learned that there are ways to make apps without coding.
So our weekly customer discovery summary table. All right, so we had 3 hypotheses for this week. Our first hypothesis was our solutions should target first responders because they're the ones with the means to help. Our experiment was through interviews, and we found this to be validated. Since the communication problem is between first responders, targeting them would probably be our first step. Our actions is to talk to more first responders and see what specific problems they're having with communication. Our second hypothesis was our focus should be on the state, local level of emergency response. Again, we found this to be validated because since it's easier for us to find more people around the local and state area that deal with emergencies, we can probably find better information through them. And our last hypothesis was, should we focus on natural disasters or man-made disasters? This was invalidated by interviews. Choosing one specific type of disaster limits our train of thoughts and the amount of people that we can help. So our further actions were to interview people that have been through all kinds of disasters and think broadly about possible solutions.
Our customer discovery methods were through interviews. We mostly did email and phone calls, and we did Google Hangout calls with our sponsors. We had a few in-person interviews also. We're developing a Google form questionnaire that we can possibly post on like Facebook and LinkedIn just to get the word out about our project for anyone who's been involved in disaster relief to see. And then we mostly asked pretty broad questions, but we learned to be more specific, and we put that in the questionnaire.
Also, one thing that Christine mentioned was to ask them what their worst day on the job was, and just try to get what the problem was from their perspective, their words.
All right. So here's our mission model canvas. Some of the bigger takeaways for this specific week were that three primary beneficiaries or end users, which can be first responders such as law enforcement, volunteers, medical personnel, military. We also have state and local government and others, including disaster victims. Our metrics of success for these three parties are going to be for first responders. It's going to be them being able to transmit and access all necessary information to themselves and to other people who are going to be involved. And it's going to be the same thing for the authorities, being able to transmit and access whatever information they may need, including mainly including like data and transmitting instructions. And the victims are going to be helped more quickly and effectively in disaster scenarios so that they can get peace of mind quicker, and especially to minimize the cost of loss, to minimize loss of life.
So for sake of time, we're just going to move forward.
And this is our value proposition canvas.
So this is our archetype. We picked both genders, aged 18 to 55, because volunteers come from out everywhere. They have to pass physical fitness, and usually EMTs, paramedics, victims, and first responders of any kind, law enforcement of any kind.
And then this is our customer workflow.
And our minimum of our product, what our app would possibly look like if we went app-wise, but we're not thinking of solutions just yet. So.
All right, nice job, team. You guys have come so far from last week. This is awesome to see. What feedback do we have for this team and questions?
Yes.
For the sake of your problem, how do you define disaster?
It could be any type of natural disaster, from an earthquake to a flood to a tsunami, etc. Or, as I said before, it could also be man-made disasters.
Such as bomb threats, possible school shootings, stuff like that. Any kind of disaster where there's first responders having to communicate in any kind of way.
Where does cell connectivity figure in how you're thinking through the problem? It seems to be like radically different solutions if you've got cell connectivity or not, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going towards the final product, we're focusing on the problem, but how are you navigating that very definite line in the sand?
I guess for cell connectivity, so that's why we were thinking about drones, possibly establishing a kind of a communications relay to drones and things like that. But if cell towers go down, there's really nothing to do about that except get them up as quickly as possible. Possibly maybe other ways to communicate. I'm not really looking into that.
So I appreciate your comment at the end that you're not focusing on solutions, but again, the purpose of the minimum viable product is that you can at least talk about and ask questions. So there is a balance in there, right? We don't want you to be solution focused, but that minimum viable product provides you a way to test and do your experiments.
Yes.
The question that I had, you don't have to answer right now, but when you say state, what does that mean in this context? Because state can mean a lot of different things. Do you mean stateside, U.S.?
No, Virginia.
Virginia, as in the state of Virginia. Okay. I was going to echo that the jobs you mentioned are not specific enough, right? You need to really drill down to what information is it that the first responders really need to get to, and how does not having cellular communication schemes prevent that information from being realized.
Any comments from those on WebEx?
Hey, this is Christine again. Great job, guys. Just a quick question. If you're able to pull up your mission model canvas while I'm asking it might make sense. Whenever you all are looking at defining metrics, you need to actually have measurable metrics. So when you see language like more efficiently or bigger, better, you're not hitting the mark. Metrics need to be things like I want 100% of all 9-line metrics, right? Going 100% of the time to all target components. They have to be things that we could actually do. So just as a general rule of thumb, make sure that there are numeric measurements for every metric that you put out there. Otherwise, you can't use metrics to validate or invalidate your unique value proposition.
bit about the beneficiaries, the state and local government, how could we get a little bit, drill down on that? That's such a broad thing. You know, who are the people in that who are going to be using what you have, so that you can really hone in on that end user.
And that's your time.
And that's time. All right, great job, guys.
All right, 1, 2, 3.